We'll call the City of Menasha Budget Review Session to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have the roll, please?
Alderman Taylor.
Here.
Alderman Sevenick.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt. Here. Alderman Tom Grady. Alderman Ted Grady. Alderman Rapella. Alderman Nichols. All are present with the absence of Alderman Langdon.
The first item on the agenda this evening is public comments on any matter that was listed on the agenda. Mrs. Taylor?
Sandra DeBill Taylor, 545 Broad Street. Good evening. First, I'd like to commend all of you that actually read the budget. I was ready to pull my hair out. It's very confusing. It might be intended that way. I just would like to start out by saying I don't intend that anything I say is going to make any difference. I come here basically as one of the only people from the public that actually takes the time to try to voice their concern. And as a taxpayer, my comments are based on numbers. They're not meant to be derogatory to any individual or any department. I'm strictly looking at the numbers. And over the last couple of years, I understand the system. I understand that if we are to lower the tax rate the following year, you cannot budget as high. I understand that. So your hands are tied with the state funding. But it's also discouraging in the fact, like last year, due to COVID, several departments, including the library, had surplus. And none of that was returned back to the taxpayer or saved over to this year. They all spent it due to the fact that if they would have cut back, you couldn't raise taxes as high as you wanted. And this year, we had $2 million land in our lap. And we're not cutting anything or using that money to offset general obligation debt. So as a taxpayer, it's frustrating because I don't see any window out there where our rate is going to be comparable to other neighboring communities, especially our size. Because I think we've been spending like we're Appleton and Neenah and some of these growing communities, and we're stuck where we are. So with that said, tonight I know you're talking community development and finance. I'm going to go backwards just because really quick regarding finance, I was really glad to see that an IT committee was reestablished. I hope that committee can give a little guidance in the future course of IT because you're looking at some major expenses. And I'm also questioning, I know for years they've used the outside services of Heartland, and I'm wondering if they have considered looking elsewhere or taking quotes from other IT professionals as a consultant, then maybe we can get better services somewhere else. So the rest of my comments are going to be on community development, mostly questions. A lot of staffing changes this year. I know Joe Paulzine retired. I believe we have a new code enforcement officer. I don't know who that person is, if they're up to par, or if they've been introduced to the council. I am sure the public isn't aware. And I can see that in the community that code enforcement has been lacking over the last few months. So I hope that happens real soon. And I'm hoping that with a new person, I still would like to see this transition back to the police department. And I'd also like to see that it's not so much complaint basis. That puts individuals in a very hard position, especially if you have someone elderly and they complain about a neighbor. You hate retaliation. And I would think that between CSOs and auxiliary police and aldermen driving around, when they see an issue that it can be reported and not just wait for a complaint to come in. Also, Joe Stevenson left the department. I know that the posting is no longer on the website, so I'm assuming we hired someone as associate planner. I don't know, but that would be interesting to find out. So that was one of my other questions. Then, looking at budget numbers, some of this, can I take this off because I fog up? Thank you. On page 203, in the middle of the page, the top line, it says management. I'm just kind of comparing numbers, and I'm asking if this is due to COVID or if something has drastically changed. In 2020, the budget was $100, the actual cost. This year, it's $10,000. So to me, that's a drastic change, and I'd like to know what that was about. And then farther down on the page, under dues, memberships, and licenses, again, in 2020, it was roughly $500. To date, this year, it's $4,000, but next year, it's budgeted for $2,400. So we're kind of going up and down, and I'm... That was on page 203. Okay. All of those are on 203. So I'm just kind of wondering where we're going up and down. Oh, and also, I know Sam mentioned it last night or Monday night. We have $20,000 budgeted for updating the comprehensive plan. We just went through land use and transportation. And I'm curious as to what chapters he's looking at to do. Because I didn't know that we were actually going to be doing that. Then, if we jump all the way to page, this is kind of more for clarification, pages 209, 210, 11, and 12. I'm wondering if some of these are repeats or if I'm just really reading this wrong. On page 209, it has the facade improvement. It shows 2020 at $11,000. But 2022, it's zeroed out. And I wouldn't think that we're going down to zero. And I'm curious what the current balance is on the facade grant. Because the next page, it reappears under the facade grant back up to 10,000. So I'm just kind of wondering if we entered it and removed it and entered it again.
Page 209 is revenues, and page 210 is expenditures, if that's what you're
I'm
looking-
sorry, can you explain? I know.
Page 209 is revenues, and page 210 is expenditures.
So this is like payback, or wait, revenue, money
Correct.
coming in? Are these people, I didn't know that people, or were these loans that people repaid? Oh, okay, so then this is loans repayment, and then this is expenditure, so it basically is evening out. Okay, great, terrific. That's what I was confused about. Then, part of the problem that I have with community development, and it's just the nature of the beast, is it's very hard to search for items to try to help reduce the tax rate when so much is built into TIF. Because I remember Joe Logs always saying it's self-sustaining debt. So it doesn't hurt our image, but it's still debt. And one of the things that I have had an issue with was the Strong Neighborhoods program. It's a great concept. I don't think it's being followed through appropriately. And one of those, on the following page, on 211, it has $300,000 for the Strong Neighborhoods program. And I'm wondering if that's new TIF money or if that's existing TIF money. And then it has $350,000 being designated out of that for a new subdivision by the Appleton Water Plant. And I realize that's been voted on and approved, but I've had a problem with affordable housing in a new subdivision in Calumet County. Because that's a total of $650,000. And there's nothing I can do about it. because it shows 40,000 for this year and then another 500,000 for next year. Then also in TIF, with the Racine Street Bridge, we have 3 separate TIFs allocating money for the bridge amenities, which was all approved and voted on. And I really don't have a problem with making it a nice-looking bridge if we're going to be doing it, updating the lighting, updating the railings, updating some of the facade. But on page 304, now this could be Public Works, there's an expense, the link to Racine Street Bridge, for $159,000. That's not cut, that's Main Street, just a portion of Main Street to the bridge. That's not covered by the DOT. In another section, I think it's over $200,000 on ANUP, there's utility, sewer, it's not storm sewer, I think it's sewer utility funds for the Racine Street Bridge. So you start adding up the $500,000 for the bridge amenities, $150,000 for Main Street, $200,000 for ANUP Street, plus not even including what we're going to be responsible for ourselves, and we're paying about $1 million just to get this bridge connected, and those are funds that the DOT is not covering. And then we still have to deal with Racine Street and a really screwy Broad and Racine Street intersection. So anyhow, there's not much I can do. I am curious though, and again, it's not going to affect the budget, but the Bryn development has over $1 million budgeted for the stormwater utility pond. That is coming out of the stormwater utility district. So again, if we were to use, I was going to suggest American Recovery Act funds, $1 million of those funds, to remove it from the TIF, which would help pay off the TIF faster, but it's really not going to reduce the debt or the tax rate, if that's a possibility, and then that would shore up or help stabilize our stormwater utility fund. I was going to, if someone for the upcoming meeting could let you know what the current balance is on that. I just remember from years ago when Peggy worked here that she was very concerned with that stormwater utility fund balance, and I hate to see it used up. Then real quick, just kind of running through 2 more pages. 325, there's a housing study designated for $25,000 for this year, and I believe that might be out of TIF also. Is that, what are we studying? Every house in the city, certain neighborhoods, certain districts? I'm curious what that is. And then farther down, urban redevelopment, $250,000 for acquisition, rehab, and conversion, I'm assuming, what we're looking at acquiring. So it's just, community development it's a love-hate relationship. The city needs it because we need to develop and grow as a community. We need to revitalize our downtown and some of our other older structures. But yet, without TIF, I mean, TIF is being used for everything and anything. I mean, not just salaries, but pet projects and things that I do not think would pass muster at the council level, but if it's thrown into a TIF, it's approved. A perfect example a few weeks ago when Alderman Nichols suggested the bid study to see the business improvement district downtown, and it was pretty much poo-pooed at the council level, and the next thing I know, it was included in a TIF and it was passed. So it's a love-hate relationship. No offense, Sam. Have a good night. Thank you.
These are some great questions, and I wonder if we could get them. It'd help all of us and the public watching. Could we get some of those answered, Sam, right now?
We can answer them as we go through Sam's section, sure.
Thank you.
Did you, I don't know who's changing the slideshow? Sam's going to be my clicker because it doesn't quite click from here. Nope, the blue one. That one.
And Mayor, it might help too that we put one of those tables down for the public if they want to spread out some
You want a table,
information or
Sandy? You can-
something, too.
Okay, I mean, they're easy to set down if you want to set one down. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through some fun facts about the budget and the city, and give you a little bit of an overview quickly. I'll try to do it fairly quick. The next slide is a little bit about population demographics. Maybe I'll do this so that people can actually hear me. So we did grow about 1,000 people, and I just thought it was interesting to, well, it is interesting that there's some extra text on my program here, but the little pie chart did show percentages of different nationalities, races, so it's kind of interesting to see that we're growing more diverse and the city is changing and growing over time in our population demographics. Okay. Oh, next one. Wanted to show you a little bit about the equalized value. Our equalized value continues to grow. We're up to 1.3 billion. We grew about 6% this year. But this other little pie chart was kind of interesting to show you where that value is. Mainly in residential, people think that manufacturing is a huge portion of our value in the community, and actually it's a very small portion because of the way the state has now valued manufacturing property and excluded so much of the equipment that's within those buildings. That number continues to shrink. They're also looking at eliminating the personal property, which is furnishings and other equipment within commercial buildings. And once those numbers go away, even if they give us dollar for dollar to match, they never grow as new businesses come into our community. So it's having this diversity in funding sources is important, and the state keeps dwindling those funding sources. A little bit about the financial status. Mrs. Taylor talked a little bit on the next slide about where that money went when people didn't spend their entire budget last year. You can see that we did increase $600-some thousand in our general fund reserve last year. So if those funds aren't spent in the different departments, that money goes into our general fund reserve, and that is used as our working capital throughout the year. So we don't have to do any short-term borrowing. Right now, our ordinance, I don't know if it's an ordinance or a resolution, states that we have to have at least 6% of our general fund expenditures backed by that general fund reserve. We're at 12. We'd like to see about 15 as we keep growing is a good number. Yeah, so we're over 10 now, and we want to keep going that direction. So we're going in a good direction. We'd like to hit 15 eventually is kind of the goal. Next one is our general obligation debt. 2011, I picked that because that's the high point. We're at about $10 million more than we are expected to be at the end of 2022, even with adding the new public works facility. The state does have a limit on the amount of general obligation debt that we can have as a community. It's 5% of our equalized value. And you can see that we're about 50% of that right now. 50% is a fairly healthy number. A little less than that would be even better. So we're where we should be. If you look in your budget book, I forgot to put that slide in. There is a slide that shows where we are compared to our neighboring communities per capita. And we are, Kaukauna, Neenah, Oshkosh are higher than us per capita debt. and Fox Crossing and Appleton are lower than us. We are looking, and I don't have the numbers on here, about $2,000 per capita, and Kaukauna at like $2,600 per capita. So we are, it's the red and blue chart. This chart. I was going to put this in the slideshow and I forgot, but I think it's an important piece of data that shows you that we are within reason similar to our neighbors. A little bit about the budget in general. Levy limits, people ask about that. So our levy limit increase based on net new construction this year was $55,000.
I will say Appleton's will be considerably higher next year with the library.
Sure. $55,000 doesn't go very far even with a 2% wage increase. That's probably about a 1% wage increase for all employees. We did have some unused levy limit for previous years, which meant that we could go up $134,000. We basically used that number and came in just shy of the total proposed levy. We should have a better, well, actually, nope, it's not on the next page. We should have a better year next year with closing TIF 9, but also the following year, the 2024 budget, there should be a lot of net new construction based upon some of the things that are happening right now, which should also help us. So I think we're set up in a good position to be able to continue doing the things that we do need to do without having a huge increase in our levy or our rate. Just a little bit showing some of the changes in revenue. Shared revenues have been flat for 10 years now. Highway aids did go up a little bit this year. Library aid, which is the money that we get from our neighboring communities that don't have libraries to use our library, that's about $500,000. That one did go down because of the formula and the way the Oshkosh Library was allocated circulation based upon some of the interlibrary loans. Theirs went up pretty dramatically. Everyone else's went down. We expect that number to probably go back up to about what it was the previous year, next year again. Payment for municipal services is the funding that we get for having UW-Fox within our community, and that has not changed in a number of years. In fact, it's went down. I think it was about 150 when I became mayor, and now we're down to almost 100. Our Menasha Utilities pilot, this is a huge benefit beyond having lower electric rates, that we're getting basically $1.5 million from our utility every year, about half and half from electric and water, that help offset our tax base as well as keep our rates low. And you'll see the big change is the health department received fairly significant amounts of COVID funding both years, but even more for the 2022 budget. So overall, our revenues are up based upon especially that health department additional funding over last year. And then the next one's the tax levy. And, nope, that was the one that you were supposed to be on. So the tax levy is fairly flat. We really worked very hard to be flat. Some years it's exactly the same or within $1 or $2. The line on the top is basically the rate of inflation. Up until this year, we've been under inflation, but this year we're seeing a 6% rate of inflation right now. So that's why that line pokes up so quickly above 2021. And then our tax rates. Good news is that our equalized rate continues to drop. It's dropped since 2014, but our assessed rate also is dropping fairly significantly this year as well, showing that we have new value within the community. So our equalized rate went up about 6%, and equalized value went up about 6%, and if you look at those assessed rates, they're down a little bit over 5%. So it kind of correlates that even though your value of your house might have went up or your business, the tax rate came down, and there should be fairly small changes. And then we just have some quick highlights of some of the things that are happening in the different departments. I won't go through every line for line. Here's Sam's. This is a picture of the Lakeshore Ridge Apartments, for those of you who didn't get to see that over the last couple weeks. They're gorgeous places. But Sam's got a lot of new developments going on, but some of the things that we really want to look forward to are that closing of TIF 9, that Brownfield grant, and some of the comp plan issues that, and studies that we were talking about. Finance has done an outstanding job with our bonding and continuing to work to get those rates down and go back into the public. And is that your boat, James? I don't know where that picture came from, but we did get the new server system installed this year, and we're working now towards Transcendent with property taxes and some cybersecurity things next year as well. The pictures, and of course now I'm going to go to one that isn't, oops, where are we going?
Mayor, who took the photos?
Most of the photos are mine or someone that I know. There's a few that one, I don't know where that came from.
Well, nice job on the photos.
I was just going to say, the photos are meant to really show that we live in a really beautiful community, and we don't take the time to think about that real often. So my presentation always tries to show some of that beauty and step back and just take a moment to think about where we live and be appreciative about how great it is. Tim wanted me to mention that we've been fully staffed pretty much all year. That's highly unusual in police departments. Most departments are down multiple people, and they're having huge issues trying to find people. Testament to him and some of his management skills and management team, we've remained fully staffed, and we believe we won't have any issues next year either. Maybe 1 or 2 retirements, but we think that, yeah, I know, we think that we will continue to be close to fully staffed. We did also, you can leave it there, we did just also appoint a new community engagement officer, so we will be upgrading that program a little bit more now that COVID is kind of passed a little bit more.
You know, when we get new officers or even our code enforcement, we should really meet them, and they should be on TV so the public knows what they look like too.
And Tim usually brings the officers in during police week once a year. We don't typically bring hourly employees in because we'd have to pay them to come to these meetings then. But if we do have salaried employees, we do ask them to come to the meetings.
Be part of the job description.
Well, we still have to pay them.
Yeah, when they,
Should tell them when they're interviewed that they have to come before.
if they agree to take the position, they have to come here voluntarily to
Yeah, for
That-
comments.
5 minutes at the start of the meeting.
Regardless, that Health Department has been pretty consumed with COVID for the past 2 years, and they are still probably going to be pretty consumed most of next year. You did? Good.
I and Randy today.
But we do want to make sure that we continue the MCAP program that has been very successful, and get our senior center back to the programming that we had pre-pandemic. I think there's just a couple more,
28,
maybe.
28.
So Randy, we did a great job on the Common Council purchasing expanded holiday lighting. So
Less than half.
that was some of the big things that we did, but we're going to also work next year to reinstate those broadcasts of the Common Council on cable TV as we move forward, as well as continue to allow people to access them anytime they want on
That
YouTube.
photo's supposed to represent the council.
Exactly, which you're the one with the lighter colored beak. That one is my picture.
Thanks.
Are there?
That's funny.
This one's Alderman Tom Grotti's picture. So we're really proud of our new facility. I'm assuming that everyone was out there. The solar installation is working well. We're collecting about half of the electric that we're using at the facility now off that solar project. And we've came quite a ways in getting our street plans done early. That's one of Corey's main goals. But for next year, we're working on that traffic signal upgrade, the traffic cameras, and upgrading to LED lights on the east side of town, and getting that Bryn retention pond put in as well. Is there one or two more? Maybe. Oh, there's 4 more, 5 more.
I thought Adam told us that all the lights were up to LED now.
Everything, pretty much everything west of Oneida is LED. Pretty much the streetlights that are east of Oneida, except for some of the very, very new ones, are still high-pressure sodium.
Oh.
So,
I thought Adam said he had them all.
nope. Maybe all the stuff that's city-owned, these are utility-owned. So, oops, I missed adding some accomplishments in parks, but hopefully we're going to be working towards continued partnerships and having more programming by working together and continuing that Jefferson Park vision plan. We have a Shepherd Park playground and walkway scheduled, and the Lawson Canal, we were working on some grants again today for that. Next one. So we did hire a new HR coordinator this year, just a couple months ago, maybe a month ago now. And Haley and Val have been working on their certifications for clerk and deputy clerk. And next year, we're going to be looking at implementing those electronic poll books as well. And the fire department, we have a new engine.
You know, the HR coordinator, we should meet that person too. You don't know who's behind those doors upstairs. We
Okay.
never get behind them.
We'll see what we can do to get some people in
Stan and
here.
I used to walk through, and now you can't get, behind the door, so.
You're welcome to come up anytime. I think the Joint Recruit Academy has also worked really well to get some good training in for our new recruits and also develop some camaraderie between us and Oshkosh and Appleton to when we work together on larger fires. So that's worked out very well as well.
Plus, the mayor makes a good cup of coffee.
We do have Menasha mugs that I can give it to you in. And the library is, I think, the last one then. So we do have a new director over at the library who's been here a couple times. And we're working to continue that re-envisioning process for the library as we move forward. We did put out RFPs to do that, and we're going to continue to explore those partnerships and programming opportunities as we move forward on that as well. The last one is just our meeting days and which things we're planning on doing. So my presentation, as well as Sam's and Jennifer's, will be up on the agenda after tonight. We'll add them to the agendas if anyone wants to look at them further.
What's behind that jungle?
That jungle, it's not there anymore.
That was supposed to be a bathroom, and the former mayor downsized it, and we had no bathroom there.
We did save the cannas, though, for next year, so they'll be replanted. So if no one has any questions, we'll move on to community development.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
got it. All right, first on the chopping block. Love it. It's Community Development Department, 2022 budget presentation. So I did include our staffing on the top right corner. We have not filled Joe's position yet. We do have that position. We did do a couple interviews, I believe last week. I don't remember. And we did extend an offer, but we are still kind of working towards seeing where that's going to land. So hopefully we are fully staffed before the end of the year and can keep chugging along with all the improvements that we have been doing. Christiane, the Community Development Director, or Coordinator, Director at times. Allison Humsky, the Residential Building Inspector and Housing Specialist. Danielle Crystal, she is our new Code Enforcement Specialist. Danielle. And then Albert Kylan with ALV Inspections, so he is our contracted commercial building inspections, and as well as electric. So kind of just skimming through, oh, I went down to the end on mine. All right, some major accomplishments. Again, we continue to implement the Strong Neighborhoods program. We did make some really good changes last December at the Common Council level, and that has made a great impact on not only implementing, but the quality of projects that have come through this year. We have a couple more things that we've been kind of noting that we would anticipate kind of bringing back for another round of discussion at the Common Council level in December prior to the 2022 year, so we can continue to move that forward as well. The 2020 census as well as redistricting, so again, we are familiar with that. That just got approved. The comprehensive plan update specific to the land use and transportation sections. Again, that was just brought back. Construction of the third edition of Woodland Hills. So this was the 19 lots that was approved last year. The lots were installed. The infrastructure was installed. As of to date, that has a 100% deferred payback already. So that is very good news for the community. Oftentimes we hold that debt out for many, many years. So again, kind of getting that debt paid back. Basically, all those lots have been sold. Commencement of the Bryn construction, commencement of the Bonta development, commencement and completion now, basically of phase one of the Lakeshore Ridge Apartments. Again, some of you have toured that, and I think there's potentially a second tour coming at a later date. As it was noted previously the other night, with that development being roughly, I think it was 50% fully leased up, they're hopeful to actually commence phase two, that second apartment building, sooner than later, as well as the condo development is still hopeful to start construction within the coming months. Sale of 901 Airport Road, and again, the commencement of Scooters Coffee. So that building is well on its way. We will hopefully see additional activity with that new development on the lots on the south there that are owned by the Pfefferly Group. Successfully, we looked at the amendment of TIF 11 as well as TIF 13, looking at not only assisting in developments to allow developments to happen, but also kind of spurring the districts and the revitalization of those areas with the increment that is built off of those developments. So again, with those developments being constructed, leaves the community dollars to put back into that district to spur additional development. The development agreements of 225 Main Street as well as 130 Main Street. This year we had 23 new single-family homes with 2 additional under review as of this week. In comparison, I think last year we were probably at end of year, we were less than 20. So again, a lot of new single-family houses, as well as the next item, 3 new subdivisions that we're currently working on, another 128 new single-family lots. So that is likely just going to continue to grow with the need of building inspections in that aspect. Looking to apply for the EPA Community-Wide Brownfield Assessment Grant. So again, been working diligently since Monday already. I think I've had 3 meetings with Stantec to try and get that grant wrapped up and moving forward. 2022 objectives, again, continue to implement that Strong Neighborhoods program, looking to do a housing analysis following the recent developments and future needs. So primarily what this would look at would be kind of the overall housing stock, as well as some of the existing and proposed developments that we're currently working on. This is being proposed within TIF 13, and one of the reasons we're looking at doing that is we have several new developments that are kind of coming on right online within that district now. So there's the Bryn development, 130 Main. We also have 225 Main Street, and a few other that we're in discussion with within that district. So kind of taking a step back and looking at, one, the overall community, but also specifically within kind of that downtown core. Can we sustain more development, more, apartment development or condo development? What demographic is that need fall under? And that'll kind of hopefully guide additional conversations from a development standpoint of, the community development reaching out to developers or working with developers and saying, look, the city did the kind of the background research to prove that there is still a need to have this conversation instead of them necessarily spending their own dollars. Working with our regional partnerships to continue to clean up our borders and provide adequate service, as well as that east-to-west street, off-street trail connection. So again, it was noted earlier, the conversations regarding the land swap action with Fox Crossing. We are still in kind of conversation with them. Hopefully we have something to bring back to both the board and the council sooner than later on that. Again, the off-street trail connection. Community development, as was noted earlier, we kind of have our hand in a lot of different aspects. And, we work well with every department and, some things might fall under engineering or under parks, but we have kind of a well-rounded hand in a little bit of everything and are always working. Becky, did you have a question now or do you want to wait?
I don't know how we're working this, so I can ask now or I can ask later.
Thank you. You mentioned the housing study, conduct a housing analysis following recent developments and future needs, and you mentioned something about current housing stock. So can you tell us more about what you're looking to learn about our current housing stock in this study?
So I think what we're looking to learn is what is the existing stock, what is the need, and what demographic is that need, and what type of housing is that fall under.
And when you say what is the existing stock, are you looking for things like age of homes, condition of homes?
It'll likely be summarized in that, but that's not exactly what I guess the analysis would be. Again, the goal of the analysis would be to provide us direction of how we can move forward.
Forward in terms of additional housing?
Correct.
And what range or area of the city would it incorporate?
So I would envision that housing analysis to include the entire community.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to think about those things.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So I did skip over City of Appleton, the acquisition of the water plant property. Again, we were in good conversations with them. They have taken a step back on their second raw water detention, or second raw water line, redundant raw water line. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we got to go. So basically, with that, they're kind of taking a step back, but it is something that's still high on our priority list. I think that not only the street connection, the future development, but also the overall connectivity of the community and the trail system that can connect the Kernan Ave area to Jefferson Park. Go ahead, James.
I was up on 201 here, as far as working closely with the Fox River Navigation Authority system and attempt to reopen the lock. And I don't know the benefit of reopening the lock to Menasha. We had 3 slips in the marina this year that weren't filled, and that's what the lock's closed. And we have boats from Appleton Yacht Club that are over here in Menasha here, so
We
opening
can
the
certainly put it
locks,
on a future agenda to take a vote on it. My general understanding is from the overall community that the locks being open would be a good thing. So, and again, that's what I work on the general knowledge and basis of what I hear. So if that's the general consensus of the council
I don't know
that
where
we don't
that-
want the locks open, we can certainly, but that's something I should know.
I don't know where that comes from and what those numbers are, that's how it would benefit Menasha. And then we have to open and close the Racine Street Bridge, and Cagle Street Bridge, and we're gonna own the bridge, and we're not gonna get any money out of that, and we're gonna accommodate the people on the lower lake, which is 3/4 of that property is Fox Crossing, and then Appleton. So I don't know where the benefit is, except maybe a couple boats parking here, and most boats they have their bars stocked, they have their food stocked, and they don't do a lot. They might hit a restaurant or two, but we got to be thinking about the wear and tear on the Racine Street Bridge, unless we can get some money from Fox Crossing or Appleton or through the state or counties to help us fund this bridge. And it's going to be a big cost. Green Bay's bridges have been broke over 35 times, and bridges are only 12 years old. So those repairs are astronomical. So we should be thinking about the strategy, and that maybe it helps, maybe if it stays closed, Menasha benefits from it more. So just a thought.
Thank you. Continue to market the sale of available commercial property. So again, we have several commercial properties within the Province Terrace area. Update additional chapters within the comprehensive plan. So again, we would look at the housing analysis being completed kind of in the early part of 2022, and that housing analysis really driving the update of the housing element within the comprehensive plan. The other specific element that probably goes best with housing is also the economic development section, and then we would look to see, based upon funding and the other elements, what best fits. But I would say those 2 elements would at least be looked at collectively, would be the economic development and as well as the housing. Work towards the redevelopment of the Whiting Corridor. Again, the demolition of that property is kind of underway. We are working again towards that EPA brownfield site assessment grant, so that can continue to move that forward. We still get a lot of interest within the area, so again, continue to just kind of keep that on our radar, and as well as work on that. Continue to, again, further development along the Bonta Gilbert, including the Oak Street extension and the continued design of the Lawson Canal. Continue business retention and expansion visits. So again, I will expand on this a little bit, because I know there was an alderman that did not understand that this was actually a part of community development, is actually trying to get into our local businesses, understanding where they're at, where they're going, what their pain points are, and how we can best help them from a community standpoint. James?
Yeah. Has there been any interest in a hotel, either on the waterfront or out by the Shopko property, out of that study? Anything at all?
Hotels with COVID are very, very difficult. I know we've seen a couple that have come through. Menasha, having a hotel in Menasha would have been very difficult before COVID, and now it's going to be extremely difficult. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's completely off the table. I think it's something that we still want to push for and consider and look at. But again, COVID does make it that a little bit harder, not only from the actual use of that hotel, but now also workforce as it relates to actually managing hotels on a day-to-day basis. Randy?
That study that.
Oh, sorry.
That study that we had, is that used anywhere, or is it only used when somebody calls, or, I mean, how is that presented?
Again, so the study that we did was used prior to COVID. And with that study, we did get well underway with a developer that was very, very interested in that Shopko corridor. We were looking very diligently with them, but again, due to COVID, it is a difficult market, and we certainly don't want to, work on a development that has a large percent of failing. So again, we're going to keep it on our radar and see where that can circle
All right,
back
thank you.
around to.
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, just a question about the Shopko area. Any progress with anything out there by Shopko?
Yeah, so
Oh, sorry.
again,
Any progress about Shopko?
yes, so again, that was my next hit, strategize and execute the redevelopment of the Shopko area in TIF 14. So again, TIF 14 was created. That developer we've talked several times with them. The latest is that the Shopko was officially sold fairly recently to a kind of an out-of-state real estate investor. Currently, they're doing the same thing as the other individual, looking to backfill it, but feel that they, with their background and connections, that they will be able to do that. So again, that is certainly an option there to backfill it, but we're certainly looking at all sorts of options with that overall site. There is a very, very large parking lot, an underutilized plaza space to the north, as well as I think there's a 5-acre development site behind there on Midway Place. So that total acreage up there is roughly 20 acres. So that is a good chunk of area too, if we kind of have that conversation of potentially in the future complete restart up there is always in discussions as well.
Thank you very much.
So continue to advance the redevelopment of the downtown. Again, I think we're all familiar with this. We've seen a lot of developments recently, and we're seeing a lot more interest, and we have a lot more projects that we're looking to accomplish. James?
Thank you. With the Shopko, the developer that was here a year ago in January and was going to do facade improvements and things. Is that resurfaced at all?
As I mentioned, we've had several conversations with them, but since then, they have lost the Experience Fitness. And that's kind of their anchor tenant. So again, we've had conversations with them, but nothing
Experience
else.
Fitness isn't out there anymore?
No,
Oh, okay,
I think it was March of 2020.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. You mentioned backfill for the Shopko site. What does backfill mean?
Backfill would just be looking at, so again, that Shopko building is roughly 80,000 square feet. That's a pretty large space for one tenant, one user to go in there. So potentially by backfill, I mean, maybe it's splitting it up into multiple tenants, similar to what we've seen elsewhere, or potentially just, again, backfilling a single tenant, but that with that size of square footage, that would be a little bit difficult.
Would it remain retail, or that is completely undetermined at this time?
I think the thought process is that it would remain retail, but again, it is zoned C1 general commercial. So if another use that fell within that, did come about, we certainly would have those discussions at that time.
Thank you.
Yes. Continue to update municipal ordinances. So again, as we progress in updating the comprehensive plan or just changing in economic trends, we'll always be looking at the municipal ordinance. Analyzing the potential closure of tax increment district number 9 early, and work with the state to continue to look at the commercial building inspections aspect. So now, basically, if the clicker will, clicker does work, just I got to also move it on here. So again, just provide an overview of what community development does cover. So we have code enforcement, building inspections. We do our part with the Valley Transit Dial Ride, community development aspect, urban redevelopment, facade improvements, housing programs, Cdbg, TIFs 4 through 14, the Redevelopment Authority, and some in stormwater utility. So I'm just going to kind of go right through those slides as it relates to the budget items now specifically. On the top of each slide, there is a page number on that, but I will try to state that, but if I do forget, that is located on top. In addition, the other thing specifically is that I am not hitting on every single item, but more or less just hitting on the larger items or things that change. So if there's something else that pops up, feel free to please let me know. So major changes, code enforcement or major items. Again, we did hire a new code enforcement specialist. So this specialist was hired kind of at an entry-level position. This was slightly explained when we earlier, maybe a month or two ago, when we were looking at the building inspector and that cost savings. So again, that there is a decrease there. The schedule of the computer replacement, this is just kind of a standard. So how the IT processes these is once you're up, you would just add that item within your budget. So again, it is not shown in previous years, and it will not be shown in future years. And I'll try to keep track of some of the questions that were asked from the public side of things, but if there's anything, please feel free to stop me. Oh, sorry.
Danielle, how is Danielle working out? And has there been changes from Joe to Danielle?
Yeah, so there's, from a general code enforcement side of things, Danielle did not come from an exact code enforcement position into this role with the city of Menasha. The applicant pools with any job right now are slightly low, but does have good background, has worked well. She was actually a cadet at the police training academy, so had that really good connection and that community experience in working with the police department. Since her time here, again, she's caught up on a lot of different outstanding violations, as well as we've re-implemented the property survey program. So that was implemented several years ago. We somewhat lost track of it, but due to looking at how she wants to move forward with that, of doing proactive code enforcement within the community, she did look at picking that back up. So again, she's hit several areas, and we'll be kind of taking a step back this winter to see, try to get a better grasp of that. She's kind of picking up where Joe left off in that aspect, just looking at, filling some time there. And then the other thing that we're looking at is also having her obtain a UDC or Uniform Dwelling Code inspection certificate. So that'll be something that Joe also had, but we'll be working towards her getting. Not only will that give her credentials when we're enforcing housing code violations, or going to the court, for working with clients, it also provides a good backup for our single in-house residential inspector.
As Sandra said, it's such an important position, and all of us in our districts use the service, and I don't know if the dollar amount's up there to hold a good candidate in the city, but certainly if she continues to improve, we should help her stay with the city too.
Very good. Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. You answered one of my questions about the uniform dwelling certificate, as mentioned on page 60. You also mentioned the property survey program and that the plan is to revisit and revise that program. Would the council be updated on any revisions?
Most certainly. So again, it kind of came relatively quickly. Again, not having a whole lot of background and kind of learning the community. That was one of our suggestions to kind of get out there and learn that, was to take that back where it was left off. So again, but this winter, our goal is to kind of sit down, look at what is that next area, those next areas that we want to hit. And we can certainly, if there's any major changes, those will be brought back. And we can certainly provide a communication as far as here's the areas that we are intending to hit throughout the calendar year of 2022.
And have we in the past tracked success rate with those?
We have in the past. Again, the program was not, I do not believe it was in place last year, just due to staff time with other projects and things going on, assisting with COVID. So, but we will make sure that that is followed up with. That's been something I've been very clear with Danielle as the new code enforcement specialist, that documentation, as well as allowing it to be documented in a way that no matter who's checking in on it, they see where that status is. So again, we can pull those numbers very quickly and easily.
Well, I think I would also like to know, by tracking that information, whether or not the program is actually working and benefiting the city, because I don't think it's worth our while to send someone out to do this if it's not getting successful results in a timely fashion.
No, and I would say since, I think it was just maybe this week or last week, we sat down and went over just one of the districts that she was looking at, and I think she had sent out like 17 letters, and she had gotten already 5 or 6 into compliance in a pretty quick time frame. And the big thing, again, with the property survey program is that because it is not on a complaint basis, it is on a proactive basis. We want to really hone in on education. We want to provide them with the Strong Neighborhoods program and really try to work with them to find that solution to bring their property into compliance and keep it in the compliance.
Thank you.
I would like to see us get off the complaint-driven for Danielle to do something that has to be complaint-driven. She's out there in the community. She's just like our police department is. And if police see something, they take action on it. And I think Danielle should be doing that too. It shouldn't be up to 8 aldermen up here that get calls, and then we're always the one that is kind of reporting things, and then we get beat up for reporting things. And how can we move past that, not being just complaint driven? That she gets used to the community, the CSOs, and the water department went with street lights out. You can log into it and tell them where the light is. And how does the public that would be watching this know how to report something? Is it on computer? Is it on telephone? Or how is that done?
Yeah, so we do have a code enforcement webpage on our city website, and on that, Danielle's contact information is right on there, the phone, email, as well as we have an actual online complaint form that you can fill out. And when you fill out that complaint form, it actually does not just go to her, it goes to everyone in community development, as well as I think the community liaison at the police department. So then we can determine, okay, who's best to approach the code enforcement on that. And we're all kind of well aware that the complaint came in when that system is used.
Okay. as Alderman Nichols says, if it's really working or not. And I think the council should get something that's generated from that department. It doesn't have to be, names by no means or anything, but somehow there should be some reporting from that department on how things are being accomplished or open. And I get if it's a court situation, we don't want to get into anything like that, but it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. And to go from a non-complaint driven, would you be looking for council action to say that this person is out there, and if she sees a complaint, she should be taking care of it too?
Right now, we're going to kind of stay the course. We have the property survey program that we are looking to implement. We're going to continue to evaluate time. Obviously, having a completely new person in here, Danielle is a little bit more tech savvy than the previous employee too, so we can see how that works. So again, I cannot commit to anything at this moment because we really want to see, okay, where those gaps fall, where those
But
time allows.
Even with an experienced employee that we had before, I see him driving miles and miles and miles around the city. I followed him a few times just to see what's kind of going on. And, I mean, we went all over the city, and all that miles you put on, you can't see, oh, there's a car with no license plates in that yard. Oh, the grass is that high. Things like that. I mean, things like that are just standouts, and a community is really judged by that, and
Certainly understand it, but I mean, going back to.
I know it's down here on your level. in
No,
your
no, no,
department.
and I'm literally, I want to answer one of your questions. Not having a license plate on a vehicle does not mean it is abandoned. And again, that is enforced by the police department and what we can do in the court system. And they have to verify the VIN number if it was actually, the only issue when a vehicle that doesn't have a license plate is driving down a road. That's the only time the police department will kind of go after that and support that.
Well, with campers, Randy's our chief camper reporter, and campers and boats and all these things parked in the yards and property that's dilapidated. I mean,
Sure, and like I said, we have a new code enforcement specialist. We're gonna see how it works out, and we're gonna see
yeah,
what
but
we
you
can
said
do.
because she's new, we weren't going to do those things. But what I wanted to say was in the past, we had a very experienced person, and we didn't do it then. And it didn't work as good for the city. I'm just looking at better efficiency. I have the poorest neighborhoods. I have the oldest houses. I have the industry. So, I mean, it's much different than other Rebecca has a lot of properties like that too. So we seem to be generating a lot of it, and then you kind of looked upon that it's the type of neighborhoods that we all have in our districts that represent more complaints than other districts. So it's something I think, I'll say, let's get this person adapted better, but I think when this person's out there too, they should be taking care of business too, and not just on a complaint basis.
And I never said she wouldn't just be on a complaint basis. I'm saying we're gonna see how the position fits in here, and we're gonna see how to move forward.
I
with
hope she becomes a great employee, an asset to the community, and we give her some raises along the way, and
We all do.
and make our city, all we care about here is making our city a better place, and especially for us that live here. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
We should try to stick a little bit more towards the budget and not towards policy.
Going through policy
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yes, I agree. Fantastic.
Sorry, I care. It's about the position.
So building inspections, page 78, 79. Again, we have not filled that commercial plumbing inspector. We did get, again, as noted, the building inspector, Humsky, continuous training. Again, to hold those many certificates, there's constant training to make sure that those credentials are kept up. So the big items here, again, salary, as well as you can see the management dollars and account 2106. So those management dollars, I know it's been discussed in the past, those are based upon revenue. So those are 85% of the revenues coming in based upon permits, so permit fees. So basically, that number is very hard to establish. Some years it's going to be lower, some years it's going to be higher, because as we move forward, we're kind of looking at, okay, what is next year going to bring for permit fees? And then, what type of fees are we actually paying out from a commercial standpoint? So, any questions on Mr. Rapella?
Oh, thank you very much, Sam. Oh, I should talk into this. Down on page 79, the bottom one where it says management, 2106, just explain that it went from 52,316, then year 2021, 82,430, at least the projected, and then it's back down to 55. Why was it up to 82?
So as I just explained, those are based upon building permits taken out on an annual basis. So if somebody takes out next year a $100 permit fee for a commercial building inspection, we pay out $85 on that $100. So this number is directly tied to permit fees collected year to year. So again, you look at year to date when this was printed, 30,000, year-end projection 82,000. That's because we have some huge projects that are kind of underway, the Brim project, the Bonta project, and others, that those permit fees are directly being impacted by what is coming out. So again, revenues are up, so that number goes up, or revenues go down, so that number goes down. So we look at the 55,000 based upon a spreadsheet of kind of averaging out the years, and that's where kind of the 55,000 comes from. Again, certainly a hard number to fine tooth, but that is directly impacted by the actual revenues coming in. The only thing that isn't revenue driven, or maybe it is annual liquor inspections. Is there a fee on that, Haley? There's not. Okay, so those are done by our commercial building inspector, roughly $3,000 a year of staff time to go through and do those annual liquor inspections as required.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Well explained.
All right, so Valley Transit, page 112, 115. So again, the city is a part of kind of the regional bus system that is housed in the city of Appleton. We do pay a portion of that. So again, from a budgeting standpoint, it does look like a large number, $200,000. But there's also, upon there's credits that we actually receive back. So the net cost is roughly $45,000, and we receive credits from the federal government, the state, and the local government. So again, kind of local credit of that. So those dollars, again, that's not a full $207,000. It is going out, but then there's revenues coming back in to support that project. The $45,000 is actually a decrease from last year. I think it was at roughly $46,000. The dial-a-ride service, again, this is a shared ride service. So we actually contract with the city of Neenah, and the city of Neenah and Fox Crossing contract with Valley Transit. So that number, again, is to provide that service for those that need that.
Just a note for everyone, with Joe's departure, we are short a rep on the Valley Transit Board. We may appoint a new person, we may appoint some other staff person, but if there's an alderman who's interested, it could also be an alderman. It is in other communities. So if you have interest, please let us know.
All right, on to community development, page 199 and through 203. So kind of the highlight the bigger items here, again, wages and salaries. So the salaries are both myself as well as the planner position. Wages would be considered hourly, so that is the coordinator. within the wages this year, or excuse me, the salaries this year, that accounts for 70% of my position as well as 70% of the planner position. We have been working slowly based upon past conversations at this council, as well as to better balance future budgets, is slowly increasing that percentage slightly. At one point, they were probably between 50 and 60%, so a larger percent was out into the TIFs. And as TIFs close or whatnot, those have to be picked up elsewhere. So again, to balance kind of future budgets, we were looking at upticking that slightly to allow for better future balance budgets. Engineering costs, again, the $20,000 that is in there, we are looking at updating the comp plan as previously explained. The marketing dollars, again, $14,000. $1,000 of those are always earmarked for the landmarks committee, and then the $13,000 others are marketed in other aspects. This is kind of offset by a Winnebago County IDB dollar per capita grant. They provide an economic development grant on an annual basis. We do have to apply for that and show how we're using those funds, but that is roughly, I think, $16,500 roughly. Sorry, Alderman Ted Grady.
Thank you. Question, Sam, I have then, with Joe leaving, budgets are set or whatever, I think looks like you're pulling in the same salary that Joe was getting for this new person. It's going up a little bit for whatever it might be, but is that the intent, to find somebody at that level? Or usually when we get new people in, that they're a little bit lower grade and we teach them as they go, but I didn't know your thought process, or maybe that person,
certainly.
to get that job, you need to pay a little bit more.
No, so certainly last year, last time this came around, we did apply for the associate planner. And then we worked to build that employee. Joe got his master's degree, and then elevate that. One of the reasons we wanted to go that route was because I was kind of just coming in as the director, and that's kind of the position I wanted. Being in here for as long as I have now, we were looking at somebody that had more experience that could kind of come in and just hit the ground running. So we did reapply that position as the principal planner level. And again, we are working towards hopefully backfilling that position sooner than later. Alderman Rapella.
Thank you very much, Sam. One of our audience members mentioned the management. I was just going to ask about that. That's 2106.
Yep.
It was $100, then $7,680, now $10,000. What's the?
And I just put my fingers on it right before you started talking.
Well, we got like minds think alike. Sam,
Yes,
so.
exactly. All right. So what management dollars is for things like appraisals or engineering, those surveys that we need to work through. So this year, again, looking at the whole $10,000 was spent. That's because we're looking at, again, moving our community forward. And so we worked on, I believe, a survey to sell the lot on 3rd and Taco. We had contracts with Dave Engineer to look at the concept planning and the platting for the Appleton Water Plant. I think those were big elements. But this gives us that ability, if we keep that $10,000 whole, as those projects come up, we're not waiting a full year to make those things happen. We can kind of jump on that opportunity and continue to push that forward. So again, that is why those are in there. I can't say exactly why the management is so low in 20. Again, could just be due to COVID. COVID really did impact a lot of different things and even day-to-day operations. The other one that was noted,
3201, dues, membership, and
dues and
licenses.
memberships. Yep, so again, due to COVID with conferences and things like that, those were all really pulled back in that. And then the 4,400 that was added last year, that included roughly, I think,
2,500 for
2,500.
the League of American Cyclists, is that what it is? Something like that. I forget what the title of it is. So we did budget $500 this year, not the 2,500. We did file our application and we're awaiting the
Yep.
announcement on if we did receive that designation. League of American Cyclists.
Yeah, so I believe that, again, if we look back at budgeted years in 19, and even further back, I think it was right around the 2,000, maybe 1,800 mark, which again, depending on the positions you have, and what type of training and certificates, and memberships that you're joining, again, we always encourage that. But again, roughly, I think $500 is included with that bike fed.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Again, even looking at the registration, and I think I did note that as well as up on the PowerPoint, the $2,000. So we were looking, I think 2 years ago, we did have the Leadership Fox Cities, the $2,000 in there. I did apply for that for myself to go through that program. I did not get accepted. And then again, through this past year, with COVID, they were doing a lot more virtual things, and we didn't feel that was necessarily the best amount of training, more or less just getting a certificate than actually getting the best hands-on training that has to offer. So we are still leaving that in there for a potential for next year to do that. And then again, there was the other PC replacement, so again, that's just kind of on that cycle, so that's why that was not in there previous years and will not be there in future years, but that is the coordinator's laptop.
That for, what is the marketing opportunities? How do you use that?
Yeah, so we do marketing opportunities within magazines. So we actually have the Fox Cities CVB guide. We do an annual kind of report in there. I should have actually put it on. Monday morning, I was up at the mall because through the CVB, then we get a month kind of kiosk. So one of those kiosks in the mall. So we actually had a sign printed, a really nice picture of the downtown, with the logo, Your Place on the Water, and the Menasha logo there. So really trying to do things like that to get out in front of the community. Always looking for suggestions, from a marketing standpoint, so feel free. The airport, yep, so we could certainly, again, those would be good opportunities for us to hear your suggestions on marketing. All right, moving right along, if there's no other, urban development, page 204. So again, this used to be used for housing program, the paint and restore program before Strong Neighborhoods, and then it was also used for the lead program. The miscellaneous ongoing expenses there are just basically miscellaneous properties that the city holds, such as 205 Mathewson Street, the minimal stormwater fees and stuff that are on that. These next few slides, I do want to just add, I did put it right on the PowerPoint. I'm going this way again and not this one. All right, the facade improvement. So again, these next few slides are special revenue funds. So again, these are actual set-aside funds specific for these elements. So each one of those do have a balance, and as was pointed out, depending on the type of program, they may also have revenues coming back in. So again, the facade improvement, this is the historic facade grant. We do budget $10,000 every year for projects. Typically, I think the max project is $2,500, so this would give 4 projects throughout there. We did not receive any applications this past year. In addition, with tax increment district number 13 amendment, this is one that we want to take a step back and look at. Does that program need to be expanded? And we did kind of set aside within the TIF project plan the capability to do that, but it's not located in the budget this year because, again, with current projects, we want to make sure we get those forward, but then think thoughtfully of how that can be moved forward.
I thought we did agree on that as a policy decision to do that as
Yep.
far as, okay.
So we did
You made it
update
sound
it.
like we didn't.
No, yeah, we did update it, but potentially looking at maybe even expanding it. And again, I don't have exact details of what that looks like, and that's not in the budget, but looked at within that project plan, TIF project plan, to allow us the future to do that. So the current balance on that is just under 22,000. Strong Neighborhoods Fund, again, this is a special revenue fund. We break out somewhat some marketing dollars. Annually, we are budgeting roughly $300,000, and the current fund balance is just under $1 million. So this was a closure of both TIF 5 and as well as TIF 6. So again, the $350,000 would be to the acquisition of the water plant. Again, the city's not, our staff's not going to go out and acquire these properties. We are going to be working closely with the council on any type of agreement, but this is just kind of earmarking those funds to do that. I think it was noted in public comment about, is this new or existing dollars? Again, this is a special revenue fund, so those fund dollars are already there. We're just more or less putting a line item within the budget to spend those dollars in. Alderman Grotti or Alderman Rapella? Oh, Alderman Nichols, sorry. I didn't see your guys flashing.
Thank you. I just, I'm seeking some clarification on these 2 pages here. I don't understand how this is set up. I understand that it's a special revenue fund. You mentioned that there's $300,000 budgeted for next year. And where do I see that? I see a 2021 adjusted budget of $300,000. I see a 2021 year-end projection of $150,000. And I see a 2022 department request for $650,000.
So that would be the $300,000. Underneath, it's noted in the text, $300,000 to the program, and then $350,000 to the site acquisition.
Oh, it's broken out like that.
Yep,
And
so
then-
the 650 is the combined, and then the text kind of breaks out that aspect.
So where do I find the fund balance then?
Up on your screen, the 962,000. I don't think we put fund balances in the budget book.
They're not. So as of today, that's the fund balance, 962,000.
Correct.
And then what's budgeted to come out of that next year is 650,000,
Correct.
which would leave 300 some.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Grotti.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if this it piggybacks with Alderman Nichols, but my question with the strong neighborhoods, throwing another $300,000 in there for next year, what have we actually spent last year in strong neighborhood dollars? And I know this is TIF money that should have came back to the taxpayers, but we voted to, with the Strong Neighborhoods program, to set some money aside for this program, which is okay. But I'm just wondering, if you only spent 200, let's say, and we put 3, is there a way that we can, maybe this is for Jennifer too, get maybe 50,000 or whatever it might be back against the levy, so that us taxpayers can benefit from this too, and not just people fixing up their homes? I mean, it's a very vague, general question, but I'm just looking for.
So with this, I guess with the special revenue, and Jennifer can jump in if I'm wrong, with the special revenue fund, if the funds are already there, so if they're not used, they stay there. And again, with the Strong Neighborhoods program, the concept of this is if we provide assistance to to redevelop a house and we can increase the value of that house, we are now assisting in the tax rate and lowering the tax rate on an annual basis to come back. And that, I guess, is the general improvement, not only just the visual curb appeal improvement, but that is also the goal, is that we're elevating a lot of these houses, their assessed value, so it kind of gets diluted over the entire community, so we can look to lower that tax rate.
Okay.
It wasn't the spending in 2020 like 67,000, but it garnered 250,000 in additional spending from the homeowners themselves, something to that effect?
Yeah, and we do have to work on, I think I thought we brought an update forward with the Strong Neighborhoods as a communication a couple weeks ago, but what we want to still do is, now that we've kind of locked in those taxes, we want to take a closer look at that too and say, here's what was done 2 years ago and here's how it's impacting taxes today. And what I will say is that we've learned a lot from that initial year, and modifying that program, that we're seeing a lot more private investment due to those changes than,
And then to piggyback it off what the mayor's saying, it would be good to see, hey, we set this program up, we invested it, but this helped everybody with their taxes because of the assessment value of some of these other homes. So some type, more rationalization that way, so everybody can just see it's a good program, but it's, the intent is even better for the people to fix their homes up because it helps everybody. So, thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions, Sam. On, we're at Acquisition Recovery Center rehab conversion, 196, and then 150, now it's up to 650. What's the reason behind that? On page 211, 56270-01.
Text down here, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's kind of cockeyed. It is. But I want to do one more thing. Well, you guys get personal screens. Another one question, Sam. Those houses that are fixed up, are they targeted to be assessed after they have been fixed up? That's excellent, Don. Now I can see what's going on in this show. All right. Well, the podium is in the way too, but.
so not necessarily targeted, but again, if it's a project that requires a permit, that permit goes automatically into the assessment file.
Okay,
And certain projects have, just natural increase due to assessment law of the value of the property. So
Okay.
again, there's, within the assessment system, there's, windows, good, bad, or ugly, and they can adjust those. Okay, well,
Sure.
last year they were ugly, I'm going to adjust them to good, and that calculates through the system and kicks out that final value. So again, we're never going to be able to say, fix up your property and we're never going to raise your assessment. That's just not how the system works.
right. You would maybe get people to not fix their houses because their taxes would go up.
Randy, what the real vision behind this is to get people to spend their own money
Yes.
by us matching what they're spending.
Right,
So the goal is to encourage people to do these renovations.
right.
It's not to hit them with a huge tax bill, it's to encourage them to fix up their house with their own money, with a little bit of help from the city.
Right.
As an extra encouragement.
And it's a
Got it.
project that hopefully, again, that they wouldn't have done but for this.
Right.
There was just recently a one, wanting to replace the windows. Through those conversations, it was, the reason we're doing this project is because, yeah, it's needed, we wanted to do it, but this project was that final push to to do
Sure.
that.
Sure, because they may put in 10,000 and we match the 10,000 or something, sure. And I think Ted asked this one and it kind of meant, I had it written down. So we're able to see the impact on taxes in a few years or whatever, as far as the housing stock that we fixed up should have raised the taxes in the entire city as far as that goes, the income that we get from taxes, correct?
Raise the overall assessed value.
Assessed value, yes.
Yes.
Gotcha,
So lowering the tax rate.
yes,
Yes.
bingo.
So, and again, Joe Stevenson was primarily the individual that implemented this program. All the application process through start to finish, the reviews. So again, losing him this October when we're, very deep into a lot of different projects, a lot of plats, a lot of developments going on, as well as the census. He was taking a large role in the census as well, is certainly taking a hindrance on our ability to do that, but we will work on that and get a communication out.
Got it, thank you very much, Sam.
I think we need new batteries before tomorrow. Woo. I'm not even halfway through slides. No, this was working. It was something up with there. All right. All good. So on a CDBG, page 223, 224. So again, another special revenue fund. So these are oftentimes driven, CDBG as well as strong neighborhoods. The final expenditures are also oftentimes driven by actual applications that come in or projects that come in. So again, there's, for instance, we've been working with an individual on a program, on an application here for about a year and a half, and trying to work through those details. So there's a lot of staff time that goes into it, but still allowing the program to be there. Within this program, again, we have roughly $1.1 million out into the community. So and these typically are, the low to moderate income folks as well. And then the existing fund balance is roughly $368,000. Tax increment district number 4. So we're going to kind of cruise into tax increments districts now. Page 223. 299. I don't know what I'm reading. All right. So really, there's kind of no change with tax increment district number 4. This is past its expenditure period, as well as has a statutory closing of in 2024. One of the things I believe with this district that we were looking at is the negative end fund balance. Again, as we adjust the equalized value as well as the tax rate, those do affect the tax increment districts. So we will be kind of keeping a close eye on this over the next several years prior to this date to see if there's a need to resolve that negative balance there. And one of those methods, I think within the TIF 13, we did allow for the possible sharing should we get to that point. Tax increment district number 7. So again, 5 and 6 were closed. No major changes, kind of just keeps cruising along, and again, expected closure in 2030. Oh, I'm back to doing this, not this.
Sam, it'd be nice on the page, you had the district on below that. It'd be nice if you had the map or something like that.
I don't know if that's feasible to put the map. Would it have to be a separate page?
Like to have up here, nice on those pages.
Yeah, so we can talk about that, in the future. Come on. Oh, sorry, Stan, you have a question?
Yeah, from the public, she had mentioned page 304, but I'm having a,
304.
something about the $159,000 amount.
Probably the Racine Street Bridge.
And and she said that might be Public Works, but, addressing,
I think I had 325 on that.
I have 325 also, that's the housing study.
So TIF number 8 does touch on the Racine Street Bridge, so that's probably,
Okay,
work
work at that.
There we go. So again, within tax increment district number 8, the Racine Street Bridge amenities, there's $100,000 budgeted there. Again, years ago when we were looking at the Racine Street Bridge and the amenities to go along with that, the council set a budget of $500,000, and we started to look at the aesthetics that went along with that. There was no mechanism to actually fund those aesthetics, but it was to be determined at a kind of a later date. So what we kind of looked at is, as we amended TIFs or looked at the TIF project plans about spreading that wealth out within those existing TIF districts that kind of border that bridge, including 8, 13, as well as TIF number 11. So there's, again, the $100,000 within tax increment district number 8. I believe there's $200,000 in both TIF 11 as well as TIF number 13. Now, one of the things I guess that would be pointed out would be the, within the capital improvements plan, the CIP, those dollars don't reflect the actual budget that those funds are coming out of. So this is where the capital improvements, the CIP plan dollars are coming from. So when we lay those out, that is correct.
But we do reference the funding source.
Okay, we do reference the funding source in the CIP aspect of that, but that's, so what we're looking at from an amenity standpoint on that is the $500,000. Now, there certainly is other aspects to the Racine Street Bridge with the, the road construction, the utilities, and I will pass on talking about those and let the engineers and Public Works take that, but this is what the TIFs are looking at.
And this is either for you or Jennifer, but remember the new pocket park that's going to basically be created, is that where the funding mechanism is going to come from?
I think that's in tax increment district number 13.
Okay. Is it spelled out in the budget that way?
Again, with the park system,
I thought it was in the amenities budget. I thought it was part of that
it
500,000,
was part of the 500,000.
I think, but you did have something in TIF 13 as well.
We could certainly
All right.
check on that, and I can let Megan know to make sure she adjusts, or she touches on that during her presentation.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Note at the bottom there about closure.
Yeah, so the good thing about tax increment district number 8, and these kind of are just pulling from that annual report that was shared earlier this fall, but statutory closure of this is 2031. So with the current projects that we've had within there, in addition to the $100,000 for tax increment district number 8 and the bridge amenities, we are still looking at a early closure of 2025, a projected closure at this time. Obviously, those things could change slightly, but that's where we are currently at with that. All right, tax increment district number 9. Again, this district is past its expenditure period. Statutory closing is 2024. Currently, within the annual report that was shared, we feel confident that we can close it 1 year early in 2023. But we are internally strategizing to potentially be able to close it prior to April 15th of next year, which would then affect the 2023 budget. So again, we are constantly looking at the organization of those TIFs, trying to get them back online as soon as possible, and looking at the best mechanism to do that. So I think that conversation will probably continue to happen internally, but will certainly come back at a later date should it need to. Tax increment district number 10. So again, this does include some of the salaries for myself as well as the principal planner. We do have $6,000 in there for the Fox Cities Regional Partnership. There is currently within the budget, there is $12,000, $6,000 within, I think, tax increment district number 10, and then 6,000 within tax increment district number 12. So historically, that has been $1 per capita. A few years ago, the council did take dollars out of the general fund to reduce that to 12. I will say, just as of yesterday, again, we've had lots of conversations with them, not only on communication and output, but also how do we get everybody, all the regions at the table. I will say yesterday I sat down with the partnership as well as a representative from almost every municipality in the region, talking about how do we get everyone that's not currently investing, how do we get you guys back in so we can actually do a regional partnership and continue moving that forward. The other aspect here is the Bertram Dental development incentive. So again, that is an ongoing development incentive for the redevelopment of the former 3rd Street Market. And I believe that development agreement is likely what's pushing the closure of this district to 2027. Statutory closing was 2033, but with current projects as well as expanding tax increment district number 13, we're looking at being able to put again a majority of this development back on to the tax roll sooner than we had projected.
Thank you. You just mentioned about the regional partnership. Can we get a breakdown on what cities are in and what percentage they're in by? And it seems like they have a revolving door on their directors. Boy, they just have such a turnover, and I know it's difficult with any job to reboot and find the direction, how to represent all the communities. So if we could get that breakdown, what cities are in and what percentage. And on 314 here, the street lighting, 52,000.
Yes, so I did not touch on that because I was thinking the engineers, public works was going to touch on that. But basically doing, I think, Mayor, you might have to help me with this. This is kind of the final
This
set of
is
streetlights?
the
on Main
chunk from One Menasha Center up to the bridge. And then the Racine Street and the bridge would be taken care of with the bridge project.
And then Racine Street is what?
That'd be part of the bridge project then.
Okay, thank you.
That piece of that would all be completed when the bridge opens.
And I guess just to briefly follow up with the comment on the regional partnership, again, one of the members that are not in, that is one of the biggest things that they shared with them is we need to see an open book. We need to see what dollars are going in and where they're coming out, because it is a partnership, and they feel strongly that, you know, it should be a separate entity from the chamber, and there should be output to be able to have that being shown.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Sam, I just want to give you a gold star for that Bertram dental development. That's a nice looking place, and they've done a good job. So kudos to you for getting them to move to our city.
Thank you. And again, I think I met them out there this summer, and you know, they were talking about other improvements and getting involved in the community more. And I gave them the contact information to a couple individuals at the police department, because I said, you know, you have a great neighbor right across the street. If you want to kind of get involved, that'd be a good opportunity. So, yeah, I think the owners are local, they're there every day, and it's a good business. Growing as well since it came here.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to the regional partnership. Is that in 2110 marketing?
Yes, I do
Okay.
apologize. Normally I add that text in there, and I must have skipped that this year. But that is
And-
what that 6,000 is for.
What other, you said that was also funded in one or two other places?
Yes, I believe it's, the other 6,000 is within tax increment district number 12.
Okay.
Under that same account line, 2110.
Thank you. That was one of my questions for tonight. I didn't see it in the budget, so.
Yeah, I apologize, I forgot to add the text.
It's all right, thank you.
Thank you. On Bertram too, it's a good development. We thought we were going to have some odor problems, but we haven't, and that's great. And the only thing I get from the neighbors on Second Street is a lot of employee parking. So I don't know if they have enough stalls for their employees or not, or if that needs to be looked at in the future, Sam.
I think we did look at that originally when they came in, and that's, they did meet the minimum parking requirements.
Okay. I don't know if they're parking, if their employees are parking on the street, but the neighbors right there on that 400 block are concerned. Thank you.
Actually, James, those are probably from the library and from the police station, those guys that's parking on Second Street. Sorry.
The neighbors have told me they're employees.
Oh, all right.
So moving on to tax increment district number 11, page 316. So let's see if I can just pull this up. So kind of just going through that a little bit. There is kind of, again, these are just major items. If there's something else in the budget, feel free to grab it. I don't even know. So 16,500. Again, that is that ongoing PJC group development incentive. Basically providing an incentive back to that. We've been working closely with EJ on attempting to get that property moving. On the Gilbert property, we've met several developers out there this summer, and we've had a couple that have come back multiple times that we're still in conversations with. So hopefully we'll see something. But again, it's a big site, a big undertaking, and a lot of obviously environmental concern as well. Construction, so under 8202, there's $100,000 in there. So within that tax increment district number 11 project plan amendment, we were looking at the warehousing across the river from the Bonta and Gilbert Trail, of looking at what we can do for to improve that facade. So we have had conversations in the past with Sunoco about strategizing on a way to potentially patch that or make it look aesthetically pleasing, but still leaving the building there for multiple reasons. One, behind that building, there's a load of semi-trailers, which also isn't a great view. Secondly, in the future, potentially future growth, future buildings, you can't build over the water like you can if that building stays. So if that building stays, there might be that potential in the future to really have a neat development and opportunity there. Continuing on, the Lost Canal design, again, there's $100,000 budgeted for continuing that. I will let Megan Sackett, Director Sackett, kind of touch more on that, where we're at with potential grant fund dollars, and continue just to push that project forward.
Thank you, Mayor. For the PJC Group Development Incentive, when does that end?
Looks like Jennifer will look that up, and we'll be able to
Okay.
follow up with that answer.
And I'm recalling something back from like 2013 or somewhere where they were prepaid for something, and so,
We prepaid everything except for the demolition portion of it.
okay,
So there was an incentive on the office complex as well as the East Central Planning Building, and those two were both prepaid. Or actually, one was prepaid and one is, we still have a loan out on, I believe, so we're still paying that down, but they were paid. And then the demolition wasn't prepaid because it wasn't complete at that time.
okay.
It seems like the demolition number was 180,000 or something like that, that was remaining at that point, and looks like Jennifer hasn't quite found the number yet.
Next year,
Do you want to give her the microphone?
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
Thank you.
It looks like next year we'll take care of most of it. I show about 20,000. We pay about 16,000 a year, so we're real close to finishing that one up.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, is next year 2022 or 2023 budget?
2022.
Okay, so the 2022 budget should take care of the majority of it. Okay.
Yeah, and so if you refer back to that annual report too, I just pulled that up. So it looks like, again, in the '23 budget, as projected, it would be like roughly $4,000 next year at this time.
Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, that south side of the Sunoco building on the point here, with the Bata building taking shape, this is what people have to look at. And I don't think there's a worse facade in the Fox cities. I mean, that is really, it really looks bad. And, you know, even if they could take a couple steps and fill in the windows, maybe with some, I'm sure the landmarks could help them with that, even if it's some black plexiglass or something. Just the broken window effect is,
Yep.
you know, really, so I hope we can move forward with that soon.
Yeah, and I know they had one of their engineers out looking at different cost estimates too at one point, you know, tear it down versus tear a portion of it down versus filling it back in. So that's what, you know, we want to be partners and assist in that because it has a lot to do with continued
some-
growth.
Even some baby steps here with the windows. I mean, that's mainly what people focus on when they look at it. Thanks.
All right, moving on to 12. So major items here, again, community development salary as well as the principal planner salary. There's the other $6,000 for the Fox Cities Regional Partnership. Again, they are continuing to look at the model. Typically, it is $1 per capita. They have, you know, the counties there, the, you know, local municipalities there. You know, we've kind of shared with them that, you know, we don't feel we can increase this at this time, but that potentially would be something we would look at in the future if we get everybody there and see an output. So the other two big items, again, would be that development incentive, that payment to the RDA that is ongoing, and then the ponds incentive for Lexington Homes at that stage, the $600,000. Tax increment district number 13, as touched on earlier, and we've kind of already discussed a little bit, but the housing study, and then moving on to the management, future environmental assessments. So we did agree within the Bryn development to assist in that environmental cleanup and to pay up to $200,000 on that aspect, and potentially looking at the underground detention facility if there's environmental aspects with that as well about covering some of those costs. The other aspects of that, as noted earlier, would be within the stormwater fund. And that stormwater fund, I know, again, the Director Youngworth can certainly touch on, but that has been here multiple times and has been shared. Alderman Semnick?
Thank you. From the gallery, again, it was stated, page 325, the housing study, and then the urban redevelopment of $250,000. Can you address that? It's 7001.
Yep, so that was 2 items down. So there's development assistance, that's a Menasha downtown incentive, and then the next item, the 250 for future property acquisition. So again, within tax increment district number 13, we did put in a large sum amount of money for property acquisition. This does not, again, mean that the city of Menasha staff is going out and actually acquiring properties. This is more of a placeholder to potentially bring back to consider discussing with the council should a property come up that we are looking at acquiring within the district.
Thank you.
And then again, as touched earlier, the remaining $200,000 on the Racine Street Bridge. And again, I do have a note, Alderman Sevenick, I'll chat with Megan on the park, so I'll have her touch on that. So Tiffin District number 14, again, this district, the development fell through. There was a huge decrease in assessed values here. So we've been looking and talking with Ellers for a while now, and there's so many potential options of how we want to move forward. One, a base year reevaluation. One of the things required for that is it has to be very much a negative for a 2-year period. So now that we are at that 2-year period, that opens up the door to potentially look at doing that. But we also want to look at, do we just close it, potentially start over if there's something new, but also what's going to take place with that Shopko in that area, potentially expand that. And then, again, we're constantly in conversations with future development. So this one's in a bit of a holding pattern right now, but certainly not forgotten about, and we are working towards that. The Redevelopment Authority, again, not much has changed year to year here. Looking at $40,000 within that engineering for continued investment and planning efforts. The Lake Park, the dues are based on the Lake Park Villa's annual dues. And then the sale of land, the $55,000. So again, that sale of land, how the RDA's financing is budgeted is that all the land value that they have is considered assets. So when we sell a property, if we sell it below the, what is the terminology there? The allocated cost, this is where that allocated cost gets reflected. So for instance, if we have a residential lot, the listing price is $40,000. We want to entice new development, so we work with the builder to sell 10 lots and sell them all at $25,000. There might be a $15,000 loss there. That's reflected here, but still, again, we're looking at the long-term financing, but also the long-term benefit of the city to have that that new growth in that area. And then lastly, again, stormwater utility, just some salaries here. We did, again, take a step back. Oh, forgot to do that. Thank you. Salaries breakdown. Again, we did reduce this slightly based upon just current usage within the project. Any questions? Oh, I got one more slide. Nope, this slide. But I guess upcoming known development, we've talked about it, Bryn, Bonta, 130 Main, 225 Main, the Lakeshore Ridge, Phase 2 apartments, the condos, the continued ongoing development with the exchange. We have millions and millions of dollars of projects that are, just ready to almost break ground, and we've been working diligently over the last several years to align ourselves to do that. Again, these projects are going to spur other development as well as continue to improve our community. Projects in the works, as we mentioned, Whiting, Appleton Water Plant, downtown, Oak Street, other Bonta development, Lost Canal, Gilbert, Lake Park, again, the commercial development out there, Shopko, and continuing that trail connection. So now, questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, I see trucks leaving the Brent site. It's tremendous that these started last Friday or Thursday and been working ever since. Where is that soil going, and is that contaminated soil, or is that soil okay?
Yeah, so that is contaminated, so it does have to go to a licensed landfill, and is actually, again, has to be paid to get rid of it instead of anticipating on just, taking it to a fill site. So, but yeah, that is all going to a licensed landfill. With the stormwater aspect of the Bryn site, we did have some soil borings done to attempt to look at what areas can be taken as clean fill and what areas have to be trucked away. So we're waiting on that analysis before we can finalize design and then go out for bid for that project.
I thought the trucks were going to dump in Hilbert, out in that area, but I see them going south out of Neenah. Do you know what site they're going to?
I forget the name of the landfill, but again, oftentimes they'll work with different landfills and to see who can get the best price per tonnage, as well as then the cost of transportation. So I think there's a landfill, I think it's south of here, that they got a better price than Hilbert.
So that goes there and then it goes somewhere else after that, or no, it just goes there?
It just goes to a landfill, gets capped as environmental contaminated soil.
Okay. Thanks. A couple of people in the public asked me that. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
I just want to thank you and keep this momentum going. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Tom.